you've traveled a lot,
Yes.
obviously, through Kiva and afterwards. Just looking around, we've got a very international campus, we've got a very international class.
Totally
people
jealous.
from
That's awesome.
so many different places, and so traveling gives you some perspective, and similarly, poor in America is different than poor in Africa. It's different than poor in a developing nation, and you can't help but think, after traveling and being elsewhere, Alexandra spent so much time in Rwanda teaching. You can't help but think, in return, they pretty lucky, where you're born. Just where you're born determines so much of your life. And you see other people that work so ridiculously hard that if they had any opportunity at all here, where there is opportunity and there's a chance to climb, improve your condition, go to school, there's no limit to what they could accomplish if they had those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to, sort of see that and connect people, that's sort of the social connection before Facebook, actually, is sort of connecting people. Weren't some of your lenders, a lot of your lenders, out there looking, connecting with the borrowers to fly across the world and meet them?
Yeah, so again, this is where I really have to say I'm not the voice of Kiva right now. I'm not saying this is official Kiva policy, because we don't have the bandwidth or really always encourage that. But we certainly have a Kiva Fellows program where you can sign up and actually we will set you up to work for at least 3 months. It's a great thing to do in summers, actually, especially in college. And you hang out with one of our microfinance institutions and you interview at least 150 borrowers. Does it sound familiar? This is like the job, my little dream job of 6 years ago now. So you basically get out there, interview entrepreneurs, and then blog about them on the site, among other things. It's the core of it. So that's one way that definitely happens. And many have been lenders before, and certainly, I think all of them were lenders before. But yeah, we've also seen people sort of decide to go find their entrepreneurs that they've loaned to and to go find the borrowers that they have seen on the site. And I think it's personally, not Kiva policy, I think it's really interesting. If you're that driven to do it, God bless you. That sounds fun. I know when I did the sponsor child thing, and I tried to do this before and failed. So I kind of admire people that actually work it out and figure out how to do it. So we've seen that, yeah.
But that is the power of a connection across the world over a computer. $25, $50, you want to go meet somebody.
I know,
so
kind of
that's,
awesome.
That's the story. That's how you knew we're on to something here, that your friends really care about this person and want to hear about how his business is doing. Well, you referenced a couple times that you've left Kiva.
Yes.
And we'll talk about ProFounder in a minute. You are sort of the ambassador, founder, visionary, and this is your baby. And remains your baby, will always be your baby. Can you talk about the conflicted feelings about moving on and leaving something that is so dear to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's sort of all these different levels we can go in it, but I will do level 1 for now, and we can.
Vague.
No, you're fine. It's great. I'm this. I'm pretty much an open book. So I started Kiva with my ex-husband, and he's a wonderful person. They introduced me as Jessica Flannery there, and my name is Jessica Jackley again. So that was a really interesting thing to go through. I think it was a really great marriage of ideas, and it was a great love story for me. Without going into any details, it's inappropriate. Of certain things. This question is fine though. I decided 2-ish years ago to try to get a little bit of distance for myself and to try to figure out, wow, this amazing experience has happened. I'm going through all these other changes. What do I do? Do I stay? Do I keep working on this? And it was a really interesting point in my life to pause and reflect. Like, I had never expected Kiva to happen and to happen so fast the way it did, and to be a success and to work and not really need its mom in the same way anymore, right? I didn't expect a lot of things to happen. So I had this opportunity. It was a difficult opportunity at the time, but I had a good opportunity at the time to say, I think I need to step back and evaluate, like, what do I want to do now? Because in my mind, I thought I would, you look at my business school essays and stuff, my applications, and they say, like, someday I will work for the next, 60 years of my life to try to do something like, and then I described something that's very much like Kiva, right? So it had happened, and we had salaries finally, and maybe I should stay forever and ever and ever. But I decided that the best lesson that whole experience taught me is that I hadn't seen myself as an entrepreneur before. I told you this very candidly. I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was for a long time. And so this gave me sort of permission and the real encouragement to know that I could go do things in the world. And it sounds a little bit crazy, like it would take Kiva to truly convince me of that. I always felt like I could go do things, but now I know, and I can't unknow that. So I decided to try to do something else that would allow me to use all the things I learned at Kiva and try again. And I really felt free in sort of the, I wasn't afraid anymore either. I wasn't even afraid if the thing would fail. Now, knock on wood, this did not fail. But I thought, well, it's possible to try, and it's possible to put yourself out there, and now I kind of know what it looks like. Why don't I try again? So one of the most inspirational things for me was seeing Kiva, again, around 2 years ago, launch in the United States and allow people, living in New York, for example, to lend to other people living in New York, or people living in Kenya who maybe got their loan a few years ago to now lend to somebody in San Francisco or something. I mean, really interesting. There's a really interesting sort of new phase, I think, that began for Kiva at that point. So as I decided to sort of take the things that inspired me most from Kiva and try something new, I looked at how those entrepreneurs were being served and realized I had never truly come full circle and used all the lessons and all the motivation and inspiration that I got on the other side of the planet to look at my own country and finally come back and say, well, what's entrepreneurship in the US really like? I knew at the Stanford Business School and here, I mean, there's so many amazing resources and not everywhere is Silicon Valley, right? So I saw that entrepreneurs all throughout the country, especially in smaller towns and not on the coast, didn't have access to the same amazing resources and opportunities and support system that, for example, which I know a little bit better than this area, the Bay Area provided. So that, plus conversations with my new co-founder, Dana Moriello, she's an amazing friend that I met at the Stanford Business School. She and I started to talk about, well, how can we better serve entrepreneurs here in this country and what are the gaps? There's a huge gap, and I think a huge lack in terms of helping entrepreneurs here facilitate investment rounds with their friends and family and community members. So to paint the picture, and especially for anybody non-business minded like I would have been sitting in your seat when I was in college, there's a stock market, there are public offerings, and then there are all these other private companies that do private offerings of securities, private investment opportunities, right? And there is a lot of legal, there's a lot of compliance issues and a lot of restrictions around doing this well and, again, legally and correctly. But the crazy thing is, most private companies get their funding from friends and family. It's not banks, it's not the SBA, it's not venture capitalists and these more professional angel investors. It's actually friends and family. But there's really not a way, besides now ProFounder, to do this online and do it inexpensively in a straightforward, sort of very open way that defines everything for everyone. So what we used to hear about when we'd interview entrepreneurs and say, so you have a small business or you have a startup, how'd you raise your money? They would talk about going to their wealthy uncle or going to like their college classmates or something and kind of scrapping together, very much like we did in the beginning of Kiva, like getting money from people and then getting up and running, but not really having clear agreements with them. And if it was the wealthy uncle, like Thanksgiving got really weird. And relationships, that's the most precious thing, right? Relationships were getting damaged. So that was really, we thought that was a big opportunity. So what ProFounder does is this. It allows any entrepreneur in the US to come to the site and create a profile and enter basic information about your business. Are you incorporated? What's your business name? What's your name? And then tell your story, very much like on Kiva, very much like the microfinance institutions that work with entrepreneurs tell their stories. We allow entrepreneurs on ProFounder to tell their own stories and sign themselves up. And then to say exactly what they need, whether it's $10,000, whether it's $500,000, $1 million, whatever. We allow them to say what amount of money they'd like to raise for their business. So it can be a serious investment round, like quite a lot of money. And then they can actually name their terms, and it's their terms for now not based around equity, which would be owning a percentage of the company or something and owning stock in that company. But it's based, again, we'll do that in the future, but for now we thought the most straightforward way we could make these investments happen was based around revenue share. So let's say you're the entrepreneur and you're going to start a cafe and you want to raise $200,000 and you decide, you look at your projections for revenue over the next few years, you can share 2% of all that money that's coming in with your investors for 3 years. And based on your projections, they'll double their money or something, who knows. You can set those terms however you want to. You're not looking to a bank to see what the interest rates are. You're deciding for yourself what your terms are. This is also a little different, by the way, than the traditional investment community where the investors are often naming the terms that they'll give. I don't know, has anyone seen Shark Tank? I've seen it like one time. It's like the opposite of Shark Tank, right? Like the entrepreneurs are naming their terms and saying, they're actually not even, with revenue share, giving up ownership. They're maintaining ownership, maintaining control, just sharing a little bit of that money that's coming in with investors. Now, then, after their profile's completed and they've answered all these questions, like how much money do you need? Over how much time would you like to share revenues? How much? It feeds into this really, I think, pretty lovely pitch with legally compliant term sheets and everything, and then you can invite people in. You can invite in hundreds of people if you'd like, but you work within your own community, friends, family, if it's an existing business, customers, classmates. Actually, the USC grad from last year was our first successful raise, and I will tell you about him in a minute. It's awesome. And then they raise money. Where am I in the process? I interrupted myself. So you invite all the people that you think might want to invest to come in. You can set the investment minimum at whatever you want, whether it's going to be $100 or $1,000 or whatever you think is accessible to people. And once you reach your goal, you basically can have everyone sign their term sheets online, make it all official, do all the legal compliance. We help you with that. And then you get to transfer all the investments online to you. And over time, this is where it's really nice, I think. ProFounder will actually pull that 2% of your revenues from your account and just distribute it to, even if you have 100 investors, we'll distribute it to all of them. So that's what ProFounder does. I have to tell you about our first successful entrepreneur.
First, how does
No?
how does
yes.
ProFounder get paid? How do you make money?
So so you sign up for free, you create your profile for free, you kind of see how it all maps out, and if you want to go for it and actually attempt that raise and use our system to invite people in, everyone gets their own separate password protected account, all that. It's very, very secure. If you want to do that and attempt the raise, it's $100. And again, you could be raising $1 million, so it's really pretty affordable. And then once your raise is successful, if you'd like to continue and get that money, transact online, do everything that you need to do, and more importantly, have ProFounder sort of facilitate all the back office stuff, like payouts to investors over the next 4 years of your contract, or 3 years, whatever I said. If you want to do that, it's $1,000. So it's kind of super affordable, we think.
No percentage of the revenue share?
No,
or
no.
anything else?
In the future, I think that might be a better way to go, but there are a lot of reasons that are probably not too interesting to get into around legally why this is the place for us to
SEC
start. Yeah, there's lending law, tax law, broker-dealer law,
Right.
there's all this stuff, and we're just trying to stay simple, keep it affordable, and just get going.